guys, welcome back to Say Mojo Homestead. It has been a busy-ish week here on the homestead, which we'll get into when we get to highs and lows.
Yeah.
But today we wanted to talk about our garden plans for this year.
Yes.
And
I'm so excited.
Yeah, kind of what we're thinking. What's going to be really fun is we haven't fully had a sit down all out conversation of what you want and I want.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to get to experience that. Which will be fun. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But it is the weekend, so we will start out with highs and lows and get into why this week has been eventful. Probably not busy, but we'll say eventful.
Yeah. My high and low are actually tied together. So I'm going to start with my low. My low is that Tuesday night, our dogs were barking relentlessly, and I have kind of learned to ignore them, which is not good when you have a farm. Thankfully, Jeremy did not tune them out and kind of checked on the situation from the window and could see that there was another animal outside near the goat pen. So he told me he needed help. I got up, we ran out there. By the time we got out there, the animal was gone. But there was a threatening animal around our goats, and that has caused me some anxiety. That was really terrible and nerve-wracking, and we did find out that neighbors actually have lost goats to this animal, so that was even more nerve-wracking. But my high is that our dogs would not give up. They continued to bark and bark and bark and alert us, and they were able to keep the animal from attacking our goats. So that was really good.
They did a great job. So
yeah.
One of our dogs, the main one that's like the protector, Peanut.
Yeah.
She doesn't bark a lot. And so if she barks, it's kind of like, oh, okay, there's probably something going on. Butter just likes to bark into the night.
Yeah.
But this was both of them barking, and it was a different bark. Probably more the low is finding out that two neighbors this week lost a total of 7 goats. It was actually between the both of them, that was all of their goats.
Yeah.
And one of those nights is when, I'm going to call it Menace, came down here. And so the good out of it, though, is that between 4 of us, so it's us and kind of 3 other neighbors now that are really on the lookout for this thing and determined to get it taken care of. And so between the 4 of us, if Menace comes back around, it will be taken care of.
Yeah.
And I just am very hopeful that it happens before it gets any of our goats. Okay, so we had to move because the AC/heat kicked in, and it was way too loud because we were actually kind of close to it. But anyway, new scenery. My other bigger low was that we both had COVID this week. Thankfully, it peaked at 2 different times for each of us, so we were able to still manage all the homestead stuff, the kids stuff.
Yeah.
Wasn't too terribly bad. For me, it was extremely mild, thankfully. Cass had it
a little bit
about 24 hours of just kind of a rough day.
Yeah.
But we're all good. We're all healthy.
Yep.
We're moving on. So that is good. My high, I kind of have 2 highs also. I'm just going to,
do it.
go for a double dose here.
Yep.
So one of my highs is that we have actually gotten 4, maybe 5 goats sold, which is super exciting. Yeah. We still have a few more left, but it's always good when you're selling them and they're moving out.
Yeah.
Love having them, but kind of love seeing them go too. To good homes. But yeah, so that is a high. My other high is that it snowed.
Yay! That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. In South Carolina, we get snow, we get to enjoy it, and then it's gone. So as you can see, it's pretty much all green behind us. And that was just yesterday that the kids were playing in it. It actually came in Friday, the snow did. But it was a lot of fun. The girls love it. It's been a long time since we've had a good snow. It's stuck and you could do anything with it. And we got about 3 inches, so that was really good.
Perfect. It was perfect. And then it was gone by yesterday afternoon, pretty much.
Yes.
So
and
again,
all the sunny
perfect.
spots. And Josiah had a lot of fun too. This is really his first time he's ever seen it snow and experienced it. I mean, he's seen it on the ground in the mountains, but never has really seen it falling and all of that. So that was a lot of fun. So in true South Carolina fashion, we went crazy, we had fun, and then we were like, okay, we're done.
Yep.
So.
By the afternoon, Sayla was like, I'm cut over it. Like, same girl, same.
Yep.
So next, we're going to start working on our garden space, which I'm super excited about. I'm pretty sure we probably have two different visions for what we want it to look like, but we'll meet somewhere in the middle.
Yes. It is like in kind of sun, so we can't be over there, but I'm going to flip it around real quick and show you guys. We are talking about this section right here. Yeah, it's a lot of junk. That's actually today's project, is get it all cleaned up. Right now, the garden gate is right there, and we do have that kind of bean tunnel leading up to the gate, but all of that is outside the actual protected garden, which we'll get to in a second. And then our raised beds are outside as well. So this is the area that we will be talking about today. So on that note, we're going to swing you back around.
So one of the things I really love to have near the garden is a garden table or a garden bench, somewhere where I can put things as I'm working, put our harvest as we collect it. Someone graciously gave us that table, and we kept it as long as the weather would permit.
It was a college kid that made it, trying to make some extra money on the side, you know.
Hey, it lived its life. It served its purpose.
It did.
So now obviously we need to deal with it. So long term, I would like to have another table there, or a garden bench, like a potting bench or something like that. Maybe not in that particular space, but close to our garden where I can work.
Why we're addressing that place is because we have to fence it in. The reason is because Josiah last year picked some beans and fed them to our dogs. So it essentially taught them that, hey, this is your food. So we planted snow peas this year, and we haven't gotten anything, and they've been in the ground for 2 months at least.
Yeah.
And it's because the dogs are eating the vines, because they're like, oh, we were fed this is food. So now we have to keep them out, and yeah. We are going to be extending that fence and fencing all of that in, and like where those raised beds are and stuff, that will all be enclosed. So that's the area we're going to be talking about today. So you had mentioned the table. Other than the table, like, what are you wanting to see done with that space?
Well, I want more beds. I definitely want to have more raised beds. I have found that with our root vegetables, they do much better in the raised beds because we have more control over the type of soil and how loose it is and all of that. So I really would like to have more raised beds that are dedicated to that kind of stuff, and also that I can really start kind of experimenting with companion planting, like true companion planting, and kind of make it more of a congested type area, if you will, but like with lots of herbs and flowers and vegetables and that kind of stuff. Obviously it's going to take some research. I'm a researcher. I love research. You'll hear us talk about plants and why they're beneficial. It's because I love to research what we're eating, and I can spend hours doing it. But so I will be learning as I'm doing it. I've studied a lot about it, but I haven't implemented what I've learned. So that's kind of my goal, is to have some areas that I can kind of experiment a little bit with that.
So I think we're kind of on the same page, actually.
Hey, that's amazing.
So the raised beds, we might be still a little bit I don't know how many more I want to add, but we do have one really long one. I would love to split that one in half, and I do want to rearrange them. I'm not a huge fan of just the way that the garden's kind of grown, like with the bean tunnel and stuff, like all that was added afterwards and stuff. And so I think it could be laid out better.
Yeah.
So I do want to kind of move them around
Yeah.
and maybe play with placement a little bit. But I want to split that in half, so we at least have 3 kind of raised bed areas. Maybe 4, maybe. You will see. But we are on the same page with the other thing.
Okay.
She really is wanting to do the companion gardening thing. And I mean, I am too. We tried it 2 years ago and just, it worked, but we also had a ton of weeds and we were really, really battling with that. And I do feel like the weeds sort of started to have their effect on our good plants by the end of the season. Like, I mean, even before the garden plants were starting to peter out. And so that's why I've been really hesitant to go back to it. Last year, you've seen it in the other videos, the black ground cloth, we put that down and barely had any weed issues. And we had a lot of volunteer, especially the zinnias, coming back, and the cosmos. But they came back, so they still allowed for some of that companion gardening. Mm-hmm. And we did put some things in there as well that would help with that, but it wasn't to the full capacity of companion gardening. So I would like to experiment with that this year in this new section in kind of a smaller controlled area and really, cramming it in there and doing it that way. Yeah. There are some weeds that pop up in that area, but it's not nearly as bad as what has been the main garden area had. I think this is a good time to try to do it and experiment in there and see what we can do. I'm also hopeful that the ground cloth is eradicating a lot of those weeds that were in the ground.
The reality is, when we first put in the garden and the grass and stuff was coming back, it took so much time to deal with the grass and the weeds that it took the joy out of the garden for me.
Yeah, by the end of the season, we're like, I don't want to garden anymore. We didn't even do a fall garden, didn't even think about it, just because we were so burned out. I don't want to get back to that point.
Right.
And if that means that we can't companion garden in the true form of companion gardening, then it means that we don't do that. Right. We'll always have flowers in the garden and stuff like that, because there is a big difference in the pollination rate and everything.
That's why I feel like if I could master it on a smaller scale and give the weed fabric a little more time to kill off those grasses, maybe we could try to a section in the main garden and slowly build towards that. So we'll see.
But before we do any of that, we got to go get it cleaned up. So we're going to get it cleaned up, and then maybe then we can get a better idea of what that space looks like.
Yeah.
All right, so we got it all cleaned up. Most of it was just kind of garden junk that had just sort of accumulated, old start pots and stuff like that. So we got all that out of here, got that broken down table out of here. Finally.
That was so easy.
That has been what I have hated over here. So got that done. So in all of that, we were able to kind of talk about a little bit of the layout, just sort of rough layout, what we'll be adding. And this will be done in the next couple of weeks, several weeks, because we're going to want it ready to go when we plant in the spring. So I'm going to let Cass tell you guys what we're thinking as far as where the fencing is going to be, all of that stuff, and possible future ideas too. So here she is.
So our garden, the edge of our garden, will actually start right behind that elderberry, and it'll come straight towards you guys. And we will remove our hoop, and we'll remove our garden gate, and they will be moved out here to where the entrance will be. We are actually going to take 2 blueberry bushes that are behind these cold frames, these raised beds, and we're going to relocate them kind of down the blueberry line so that we have this whole back area over here for garden space, and that's where our raised beds will be. We'll move all of our raised beds and add 1 or 2 more back there. And then all of this space right here that you're seeing is going to be kind of experimental garden area where we want to start playing with that companion gardening idea. The soil will definitely need to be amended because it's been exposed and walked on and all of that. So we'll have to be doing that as well. But the thing I am super excited about is hopefully down the road right here would be where I would have a greenhouse. So I say I because I have always really wanted a greenhouse. So hopefully it will go here. But for now, our garden will basically tie into this post right here where we have a trellis for some muscadines. And it's going to go from that point, jet out to about here, and then it would tie into the rest of the garden. So we didn't really finalize where the door would be, but it would be somewhere in this general area. That is a straight shot to my kitchen side door. So it's the perfect location for getting our produce and taking it to the kitchen. And it's not very far from my kitchen garden, and it's not far from the tea garden. So everything's kind of close to where we would need to go. And
all right, so that's about it. That wraps it up. We're excited about it. We're getting more garden space, which is always good. We've had a lot, and this past year, because of the ground cloth, really was the first year where I didn't feel overwhelmed with the size of the garden.
Yeah.
So we're feeling like, okay, hey, we can handle a little bit more of this. Yep. So that's what we're gonna do this year. It is gonna take some work. You know, I am going into it realistically.
Yeah.
And not expecting like this new area to do great just because the soil hasn't been greatly amended or anything. So
it's going to take some work, but I'm just excited about having it down the road and having a place to experiment with. I like experimenting, so.
Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So we'll obviously be bringing you guys along. You'll get to see the progress of it and watch it grow with us. We'd love to have your ideas too with this whole like garden thing and everything. Always welcome those things. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. That is the easiest way that you guys can support us, and it's simple. Doesn't cost you anything, just a little move of the finger. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that. Likes are always good too. But anyway, you guys have a great week. Stay healthy and be blessed.